You know, sometimes you get these really crazy kind of overlap fights where you feel like two generations are like they're overlapping a little bit. Like when Anderson Silva was champ and then Chris Weidman arrived, and Anderson was already the UFC champion when Chris Weidman made his professional MMA debut. And in the short period of time that Anderson was sitting on top of short period of time, in the period of time that Anderson was sitting on top of the UFC, Chris Weidman made it all the way up to his doorstep. It feels a little bit like that here, although this is not Aldo being the champion and Merab working his way up. This is Aldo having been the champion, taking a little bit of a downswing, and then come back up again in a different weight class. So when Merab made his professional MMA debut, it was January of 2014, around the same time that Aldo was fighting Ricardo Lamas, defending his belt at UFC 169. You know, and this was a defense. I mean, how many is that? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 UFC title defenses, and then 3, 4. I mean, and 3 WEC defenses. I mean, he'd been on top of the sport, on top of the featherweight division for a long time. He was already cranking out 5-rounders against the likes of Mark Hominick and Kenny Florian and Frankie Edgar twice. It's almost like this is the second career of José Aldo. It's like he's having a second run at being a champion in a different weight class. You can almost forget how dominant he was as a featherweight. I never thought Aldo would go down a weight class. I always expect him to move up. Very, very strong, powerful, well-conditioned individual. Supremely well-rounded, great Muay Thai, both offensively and defensively. Really, really strong takedown defenses we've seen, particularly through the Chad Mendes fights and the Frankie Edgar fights. The only thing that we have to point out about Jose is over 5 rounds, he tends to fight 4 rounds and take a round off. There always tends to be a round where, you know, he pulls back a little bit because he maybe doesn't feel like he has the energy to push hard if he continues at the pace that he's at. Or, you know, I mean, maybe it's just a strategic thing. He doesn't want to, you know, he wants to give himself a break so he's at his best during the championship rounds. You know, it was usually one of the middle rounds. He'd usually start pretty strong, read in the first, but get a good, a few bites into them. Second round, he'd start to put it on him, and then he'd kind of pull back a little bit third, or sometimes fourth, depending on the opponent that he was fighting. Like with Mark Hominick, beat him up for 4 rounds, caused a horrendous swelling on his forehead, and then kind of just coasted in the 5th round, didn't really do anything. Over 3 rounds, José Aldo's a different story, though. He's able to keep his foot on the gas. He's able to fight at a far more electric pace, which is going to be important because he's got Merab on the other side of the octagon. The pressure sometimes can get to Aldo. Like, people can wear him down, and they can push him, and him coming down to 35, I've always got that question of how much can he be pushed before he starts to fatigue. You know, there's an age difference between these two guys, the experience as well, you know, wins and losses, they take a toll on your body. So there's going to be, you know, physical things that Aldo might be dealing with that a younger fighter that's got, you know, less experience and less fights is dealing with. Aldo is in a really good place, a strong place. I think he's ranked number 3 in the division. Merab shortly behind him at number 6. So, you know, again, this is a really good opportunity for Merab. The likes of opportunities that don't come around very often, when you get an opportunity, and that's what this is, an opportunity to fight José Aldo. I hope he makes the most of it, and I hope Aldo shows up being the dominant former champion that he is, and the skilled MMA fighter that he is.